Yo, so season 14 is good. Like it's good, bro. And this video is just gonna talk about some of the things that I've noticed while playing that Riot has implemented that are actually super smart changes. And for some reason, maybe I'm coping really hard, but the experience in game this year has been pretty solid from like every perspective possible. Like I'm talking gameplay, the way they've presented the changes, like all the changes, they make a lot of sense. And they're if you're actually thinking about what they do, they're super healthy for the game, and they actually fix a lot of problems with why League feels bad in the first place. That's like a huge thing for me. And even the presentation of like, you've seen the new cinematic, it's absolutely fantastic. It gets people really hyped for the game. Even the way the changes flow, and even players. This is crazy. The players that I'm playing with, people are nice. So I'm going to break each of that down because there's a lot to unpack here. So I think the first one for sure is that there's a lot of fighting in the game right now. You don't really know how the game will end. So let's say there's actually, because of the introduction of the void grubs and like other objectives and the blue and red post 20 minutes, Riot has introduced a ton of new objectives that you can play for throughout each stage of the game, right? And this means, let's say you're laning for only like a bit here and there, and then you're off to the races. You're going off and you're fighting for objectives. Your team is just, you're popping off. You're making sure you're getting everything. You're just so much fighting, and because of how much back and forth there is and how much like you can play for and how many strategies you can do surrounding that, it's actually pretty close games a lot of the time, at least from my experience. You don't really know how the game will actually end a lot of the time. The games are going to be like pretty close. It's really cool. The void grubs give you a lot of things to fight for. It makes the action fun. It's not in like a 2-minute crab sort of way. It's in a really well paced way. It seems really weird, and I think it's because of the fact that you can kind of contest the grubs, and there's like semi winners and semi losers, right? You can steal one grub. It's not like Baron or Herald or Dragon where it's just one winner and then the fight's just like doomed after someone gets the objective, right? It's close. And what makes it happen is like, oh, if you lose this, there's always the next play, and then you can contest for the next play. And when you keep going, and then things like Baron, right? Baron is so much stronger right now, by the way. Before, as Riot stated, Baron macro was like really simple. You just get a kill, or you have decent control, you push in some waves. All right, let's start Baron, guys. Or are you playing for a fight? Are you playing to turn? Are you finishing? What's happening? That used to be it, right? It's not that crazy. But now Baron is actually hard. It's not easy to kill anymore, like at all. Bitch is tanky. You cannot just have like 3 teammates and then go for it. Baron does so much damage, and I think you actually need to know which pit it is because it changes the way it deals damage. And you need a team that has a lot of damage output in order to actually do it effectively. It's actually crazy because there's some fights where you can just lose, and you can lose gracefully because the game's not over, because the team doesn't get Baron right after, and then you don't just lose immediately. So it feels really good to like experiment and think about, okay, how do we adjust for our next fight? I always commented that this is one of the biggest issues of League, because you get punished extremely hard for just, let's say, mismanaging something or putting yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time in the mid game, and then you just get punished for it. You lose Baron, then you lose the subsequent objective, and then you lose the game. Baron is no longer instant, and you actually have so much time to think about how you're going to approach the fight. If you're going to contest it, playing slow is super effective. The team that's taking it has to think about it. There's so much nuance to it. Even macro, because of the grubs and Herald, even macro surrounding like trading sides and alternative routes to success are more viable. It has that, like, I'm going to use a bit of a board game analogy. It has that like Euro game mechanic where there's multiple win cons and they're actually viable. It's not objectively speaking where Baron is the only way to win. Let's say you have 6 grubs or something and they're doing Baron and you lost a fight, but you can get so much pressure, let's say, by pushing with your 6 grubs. That's actually like very viable in some scenarios. You could trade like 2-3 towers for it now. That's something that's super cool. Another big one, jungle is nerfed. It sounds really funny, but the fact that jungle ganking being less impactful on the lanes is actually really good because it focuses on the gameplay of League itself in terms of its laning and its mechanics, and it changes the flow of the jungle and how it slots in. It's no longer just a ganking tool. You know, you're not a ganking slave per se. And if you're not a champion that is good at ganking, you're just not good for competitive anymore. I actually think that because ganking is overall nerfed, jungle is less about a role about just disrupting laners and more so about commanding space of each side, quadrant, fighting for things, because there's so much to fight for now, right? They added an objective for junglers at 5 minutes. There's still crab at 3 minutes, right? It's about taking space, taking their camps, still bailing out and looking for gank opportunities when possible, because that's still viable to some extent, but there's so much emphasis on playing for these objectives now. And the jungler is that facilitator. He's that chess guy. He's just thinking about, all right, how am I going to advance here? How am I going to get an edge up on the enemy? Is this what I'm playing for, right? It feels healthy. You know, you're not ruining people's games in like one hit. And people don't get punished for like having their wave in a bad spot in certain matchups. It's not as bad as it used to be. So these are like some of the changes that, I don't know, it just like feels really good. And season 14 right now, I think the way the flow of the game is, there's going to be some kinks here and there that they have to hash out, but the game is honestly in an excellent state. And if you haven't played in a while and you're not too interested, honestly, give this season a try. I think you're going to be pretty impressed. So yeah, like there's not much else to it. I just really wanted to speak on that, and hope you guys have a nice day. See ya.